Suffolk Pod Show is produced and managed by podtalk.co.uk. I'm Mark Mason.
And I'm Susanna Hornby. Welcome to this next episode of the Suffolk Pod Show. I'm in the biggest conference room, meeting room I've seen for a very long time. And with me are two very great people. We have Nicola Weldon. Hello, Nicola.
Hello.
And Chitra Watson. Hi.
Hello.
Nicola, you are partner and head of private client.
That's right.
For
yes.
Ellisons. And Chitra, you are head of HR.
I am.
Right, so we're going to start with Nicola, who specialises in wills and trusts. And I've also read that you are able to deal with complex detail around high net worth individuals around estate management and estate planning.
That's right, yes. Sounds complex.
It does sound very complex. But before we get into the law stuff, because I'm fascinated to know a lot more about what you do, but you've been a lawyer now for more than 20 years.
That's right, yeah.
Tell me where it all started.
Where did it all start? So throughout my school life, I was determined that I was going to be a PE teacher. So that was the way that I was heading until one day I went to an open day at Southampton University where my now husband, was due to go and study law. And I sat in on a seminar and came out and I had an epiphany. And all of a sudden I was going to study law and I wasn't going to be a PE teacher anymore. So that's where my law journey began, bizarrely or not. And I then went off to university and studied law and started my career there, really. So that's how it began.
And studying to be a lawyer is not just a dip into university for 3 years. It's quite a long process.
Yeah, it is a long process. And fortunately, it's changed over the years. It's a lot more accessible now than it used to be with the apprenticeship schemes and other ways of learning and qualifying. So the way I qualified was 3 years at university. I then did another postgraduate course called the legal practice course and then had to do a 2-year training contract. So I did that in Bromley in Kent, stayed there for a year. But my family and friends, all in Ipswich in the Suffolk area, so we returned to the homeland, if you like. And then I've been practicing as a solicitor in and around Ipswich and Suffolk ever since.
Have you always worked in wills and trusts?
Yeah, so the umbrella term is private client. So like you say, it includes wills, trusts, estate planning, lasting powers of attorney, court of protection work. So yes, I have. And that stems from really my law degree when I really liked the equity and trusts module and then a legal practice course. And I just carried on from there, really. And
you mentioned PE there. I've just got to step back to that.
Yeah.
You loved sport?
Yes, and I still do.
Right. And what, you still play sport of any sort?
So I participate in CrossFit at the moment. So historically, I've been a runner. I used to do athletics when I was younger. Not quite as easy now as I'm getting older. So I do try and keep fit and I go to a CrossFit. There's a gym just by Suffolk Food Hall behind there where I attend regularly, yeah.
So when did Ellisons happen for you? Because I think you worked for several different lawyers or solicitors before you came here.
Yes, I did. So it was September 21. So it's coming up to 4 years that I've been at Ellisons. And yeah, it's been a brilliant move, not looked back at all. So really excited since I've been here.
And you came as partner straight in?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I was a partner in my previous role. So I was approached and joined as partner and then shortly thereafter became head of the private client department.
So far, and still to come, a very, very successful career. You must be very good at what you do, be honest.
So yes, I have had a lengthy career in a successful firm. I've done well in the promotions as I've gone through. And in terms of my clients, I've had good client feedback and testimonials. And with colleagues, I've got colleagues who work with me now who've worked with me in previous firms. So that's been nice as well.
And what do you think it is special about Ellisons? I mean, apart from it's an enormous company, you spread over Suffolk and Essex, and I read recently around 300 employees. That's a big organisation. Tell me what it's like to work here.
Yeah, in a way, it doesn't seem like it's that big because it is a very close firm. Although we're split over the different locations, there's a lot of movement between the locations. So I spend time at other offices. We'll see our Guy, our managing partner, who'll be in the other offices. Other partners move around to see our colleagues. And with the technology and teams we've got now, you can just speak to anyone in another office. And one of our values is putting our clients and our colleagues at the heart of everything that we do. So it's really important to us that colleagues are important and up there with our clients.
Yeah. We were talking earlier and I was saying that some people are used to using solicitors and lawyers and find it very easy to approach a company like this, but some are wary and have never actually had the need to really deal with a solicitor before. What's different about Ellisons that you can break down those barriers to begin with to get clients in who may not have ever used a solicitor before?
Well, I think we strive to be, and hopefully our clients would find that we are a trusted advisor. So we would have relationships with clients, their accountants, their financial advisors and so on. So we can build that community, if you like, around a client. We're not scary, we're
you're not.
Here,
you're
not
lovely.
Scary. So I think when people do come in and see us, they might be a bit apprehensive to begin with. They'll go away feeling reassured and comfortable, and that we've done, we're doing a good job for them.
I think that's it. And I think, a lot of the time when people are coming to you, they're not probably in the best situation in their life.
No, entirely not, especially in, I suppose if you're using legal services, potentially quite a lot of the time it's because you're in a dispute, or perhaps somebody's passed away, or you've got an elderly relative who might be losing capacity. So it quite often is a point in somebody's life where they need help as well as the legal expertise.
Yeah. And some people are just terrified of lawyers. They just think, and I don't think they understand the concept that those people become your clients and you will look after them from the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, as I say, about being part of this trusted advisor, that's really, really important to us. And hopefully our clients over time would come to us to ask us something that might not be anything to do with law, but we can direct them because they trust us to another professional. I think as well, over the years, the profession has changed a lot. It used to be much more male dominated. Yeah. The image perhaps of a solicitor was a lot different from what it is now, I would hope. So,
yeah. I'm going to come on later and ask you more about the work that you do and put some questions to you about how you particularly might help people in certain areas, if that's okay. So as I mentioned a moment ago, we're sitting in this fantastic meeting room in the new Ellisons offices, which are in the Connections building, right opposite Portman Road. It must get quite noisy at times.
Well, being back in the Championship, we'll have more midweek games. So I suppose that's a positive if if there are any positives to come out of it. And we have got a balcony and we can have a little peek. We can just about see the stadium. So perhaps with the Ed Sheeran concerts coming up, we might be able to all congregate out there if we can't get
have
tickets.
Sort of private soiree going on. And the noise you can hear are just the buses going past and the general traffic of that road, because it is a busy part of town. But I've noticed a lot of very plush offices, and the buildings are becoming a much more like a downtown part of Ipswich. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's a great location. It's really developed sort of the professional services, the ones in, the professionals in this building as well. It's great to have that.
Now in the room too, we haven't forgotten her, is Chitra, who is head of HR here at Ellisons. So Chitra, how long have you been working here at Ellisons?
So I've been here coming up for 2 years. So law was new to me. My story isn't as exciting as Nick. So I had visions of it being like Suits, the American corporate feel. So I came to Ellisons and completely different. But yeah, 2 years.
So 2 years, and you were, where were you before? Not in this building, but in
Arcade Street.
That's right.
In the town centre.
So, and that doesn't exist, that office anymore. That's
Correct.
gone out.
It's gone.
That's fine. And Chitra, where were you before?
So I worked for an organisation called Trinity House, looked after lighthouses and aids to navigation, so completely different.
Wow.
Completely different. No comparisons whatsoever.
Right. Okay. So, and after 2 years now of being in your role, I'm guessing you are really getting some of those programmes off, those initiatives off that Ellisons have invested in to make this, I understand, as one of the best places to start your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So HR is HR. Really, where whatever industry you work in. But here, one of the things that struck me quite quickly was the management board, Guy, partners, everyone lives and breathes the values. So, as you said, we're not a very small company anymore, but we keep that family feel. So for us, in terms of HR, it is about those initiatives that help the management board keep the culture, keep the values. And it is a great place to start your career. We have a number of apprentices and trainees who started with us. And actually, they're our future ambassadors. And, we engage with them. We find out how they're finding their training programs. And we don't lose our apprentices and trainees. So if there's a place for them at the end of their training program, we will keep them on. So, we don't have turnover with the people that are coming in to do the education, but also we are very inclusive. So it isn't just about the trainees, it's not just about the A-levels. We have people doing SILEX routes to qualification, which just opens up the door to becoming a lawyer, where perhaps some people might not have had that opportunity before.
That's amazing, and you are really enriching your workforce.
Absolutely.
Now, apprenticeships, let's talk about apprenticeships you mentioned there. they come in straight out of university?
Yeah, they come in after A-levels.
A-levels, sorry. Yeah.
So we have non-graduate apprenticeships, and we've got over 20 in various stages of their apprenticeship programme. So if they come in via that route, it's a 6-year programme, so longer than what it would take if you're at uni. But again, uni is an option for everybody. And the feedback we get is that people like learning on the job. So they get to go to college, they get their study day, but they're actually doing the practical side.
And the fact that they're getting their training and working on the job actually here, particularly for this firm, for Ellisons, they couldn't have a better start in their life, in their career.
No, absolutely. And we actually run an apprentice academy specifically for our apprentices as well. So we have our normal academy, but we have an apprentice academy which we started last year specifically for apprentices, because it's different when you leave education, come straight into work. So it's some of those basic skills that we like to really help people with.
And I understand you've just been accredited as a STEP employer. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
That's actually Nick's area.
Is it?
It is.
That's my area.
Go on then.
So within private client, there's an organisation called STEP. So it's the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners, and it requires postgraduate qualification. You can do it either through exams or an essay route. Both equally is tricky, I would say. And the qualification shows that you're an expert in that area. And as an employer, we invest a lot in our colleagues across the whole firm, but particularly within our private client team as well. So we've just been awarded this accreditation at the platinum level, which is the highest you can get, which is sort of vouchers for the training and development of our colleagues.
Yeah, congratulations. That's amazing. And that puts you in high stead on a national level as well.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's a national organisation. Yeah, so and that, it's brilliant for our retention of our colleagues, keeping it, and also to encourage new colleagues to join us.
Yeah, indeed. I want to dig a bit more now into the law, if I may. There's people who are not used to having their will done, sorting out an attorney, doing this, that and the other. It's a real jungle to them. And I think everyone believes something slightly different in one family, for example. And I think people get in a muddle. So can you debunk for us what is the most sort of common, if you like, misconception about getting a will written to start with?
Well, one of the common things I think people seem to put off about doing their will is they think that something's actually going to happen to them if they do a will. Is almost, you're attempting fate. So I think sometimes people actually put it off. But in all seriousness, I think there's lots of misunderstanding about what happens if you don't have a will. And people will think that their partner that they live with perhaps might just inherit everything. And that's not the case. So if somebody doesn't have a will, there's specific rules in law that determine who will inherit somebody's estate.
So give us an example. Husband and wife,
yes,
legally married, because
yes,
it's different again as in a more flexible relationship.
Yeah.
So a husband and wife legally married, or
yes,
two people legally married, I should say. When one of the partners dies and they don't have a will, what happens to their
estate? So it would depend partially on the size of their estate, the value of it, and also in terms of how they own their property, if they own it jointly. So it might be that everything ends up passing to the surviving spouse, but equally, depending on how the property is owned and, as I say, the value of the estate, it might be that some of it goes to the surviving spouse and some of it goes direct to the children, if they are children at that point.
So it doesn't go to the government or anything scary like that. It will be handed down within the family? So
it can go to the government if there aren't any other relatives that can be traced. So it's something called bona vacantia. So it goes to the Crown, and that's where you see these genealogist companies get involved in, like the programme that was on the television where they try and hunt down potential heirs who might be entitled to an estate.
You know the will reading bit?
Yes.
Do you do that?
I think I've done it about twice
Tell
in my
me,
whole career.
is it as frightening as it feels? I've only seen it on the telly. I've never been invited to one. That's how many people have left money to me.
So in all honesty, it doesn't really happen nowadays unless somebody particularly wants it to happen, because we do encourage clients to make sure their family executors know where their will is. So if something happens to them, they'll find it. So invariably they would have already seen it before they come in to see us.
Just quickly on the power of attorney, that's really important.
It's so important, and not just for people who are nearing retirement or elderly people. It's really important to be able to appoint people who can make decisions for you if you can't make those decisions yourself. And that can happen suddenly because, accident, illness, not just because of diseases that we perhaps associate more with elderly life.
And you've just said there, you need a power of attorney, not... let's just explain what that means to have power of attorney over, I don't know, your sister's estate. What does that actually mean?
So there's two different types of lasting power of attorney, and they're lasting because they would continue if you lost capacity. So that's why they last and go on. One's to do with property and financial affairs, and the other one is to do with health and welfare. There is also a different type of lasting power of attorney to do with business affairs as well. So you could potentially have 3 if you wanted different attorneys for each. And your attorneys are people that you're appointing, so trusted individuals to make decisions for you if you need them to be able to.
Yeah, you don't actually need to die for this. It's just if you suddenly have an accident or you become very unwell and you can't make decisions yourself.
Exactly. And in actual fact, if you then do die, the powers of attorney are null and void. So they stop then, and it's then the executors under the will who would step in and act. Okay. So powers of attorney are all about lifetime.
Great. Okay. That's really good. It's made it clear. I mentioned also earlier for blended families, for people who are cohabiting. What are the rules there?
So people that are cohabiting together, depending on how they own their property, but under the rules about how their estate would pass on death, there's no provision for a cohabitee under the rules of law. So somebody has to have a will to make sure that they're providing for their partner.
Mm-hmm. Trusts. Just want to talk about trusts because, I don't know, I've heard that you can put money into it's all around the inheritance tax thing as well.
Yeah.
What are the benefits of setting up a trust?
So there's pros and cons of setting up a trust, and it really is individual on each client. So benefits of trust largely are to protect assets and to ensure they're passing down through the generations. They can also be used to save inheritance tax. But it's really important if somebody's thinking about trust, they fully understand, obviously, the nature of the trust, really if it's necessary and relevant for that individual. We have had a few cases where people have perhaps entered into trust arrangements which aren't appropriate or necessary for their size of their estate or their circumstances, and then you can end up spending quite a lot of money on doing those arrangements. So taking advice is really important. But they're a great way to provide for example, grandchildren's school fees, to pass on business assets, perhaps, agricultural assets. So they really do have a place to play in the overall estate planning picture.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the farmers.
Yes.
I mean, that's not been passed yet by the House of Lords.
So it will come into effect. So for both, it affects not just farmers, it's also business owners as well. Obviously, farmers are business owners, but it's non-agricultural business owners as well. For those types of assets, as long as they qualify, you would get relief from inheritance tax, potentially at 100%, more often than not at 100%. And that relief now has been really restricted. So that affects not only agricultural, rural landowners and businesses, but also other businesses as well.
I'm going to go back to you, Chitra. You're sitting there really patiently, and you've been talking about bringing in new colleagues and training. What about general development for the people who are already here, all of your lawyers, even for people like Nicola, who's fully qualified?
So we have Business Academy, so that won an award 2 years ago. So that's something we continue every year. And that's we split that out amongst peer groups. So depending on where you're at in your career. So there's that side. But in terms of general, we also have an annual L&D programme, which is available to anyone, all of our colleagues. And they will be, we call them people skills. So it could be management sessions, a lot of business systems training, because as you can imagine, we have a lot of different systems. And we also do a massive amount on well-being, which we're incredibly proud of as a firm as well. It's not something that we just pay lip service to. It's something that we genuinely take an interest in. So we have quite a big programme, L&D, and people just sign up. So they agree with their line manager and they just sign up to whatever course they want to go on. Yeah.
That's great. And, that all hail to your very small turnover of colleagues, employees. It's brilliant.
Absolutely.
What, during your learning of becoming a lawyer, or even as being a lawyer, Nicola, in your life, in your career, have you ever looked at someone and went, yes, you are my mentor. Yes, you have influenced me to become who I am today?
Yes, I actually have a mentor at the moment from another professional services firm. So we've got a partnership with a couple of firms. And I suppose it's like you've just said, what training development does the firm offer for somebody who's further on in their career? And this is a sort of a prime example of that, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. That's great. I mean, even someone, you'd consider at the top of their professional game is that there's still more. There's still more learning.
Yeah, and I think you can't just rest on your morals, and the only way you develop, isn't it, if you keep learning, keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Now, if you could go back to the younger you, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
I think it would be to have more belief in confidence in yourself and your abilities. And I think perhaps we all suffer with that a little bit, but I think that's important.
Yeah. I think there's something nice about someone who's not overly confident, though. I think you trust them more.
Quite possibly,
You're more human.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You must interview a lot of people. And that must come across, Chitra, in interviews when you can say, oh, overconfident.
Yeah. And for us, in terms of the values that we have here, because as Nicola alluded to, it is all one team. So, yes, we need someone that's got the technical skills, but it is also about the person as well. And you can't always get it right, but that is something that is quite important to us in terms of the behaviours and the attitudes that someone can bring to the firm.
Something's just come to my mind, and I was just thinking back. I've just been asking you questions about wills and whatever, and we haven't touched on digital assets. And that's become a massive thing now.
It has, yes. So digital assets are things like your social media accounts, photographs, things in the cloud, email accounts, online banking, cryptocurrency, all those types of things. So things you can't necessarily touch and feel, but they do form part of our estate as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. And access to those might be really difficult at times.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the different service providers have different terms and conditions. Obviously, there's different passwords that you should have for each of your accounts. So they're things that should really be addressed when you're making a will. You can have executors who deal specifically with your digital assets. So there'd be people you've sort of given details to about them. And also, even during your lifetime, important that your attorneys can have access to those assets as well.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Now, do lawyers have a special sneaky way of getting into these accounts if no one else can?
No special sneaky way, I'm afraid, no.
I thought that there might be some extra amendment to something that would allow you in.
No, perhaps knowing where to look, perhaps, but no actual sneaky way, around it, no.
Yeah. God, that's so interesting. I think I know what I want to talk to you about is money as well, okay? Because people have a fear using a lawyer is really very expensive. I think people are prepared to pay, but I think they're worried that, okay, they're going to pay for a service, but what happens after that? What if I have to continue doing it and I can't afford it? How do you help people like that?
So you do have to pay for legal services like you would have to for other professional services. But I think it's a lot better for people to get it right in the first place than perhaps try and cut corners or do it themselves, and you can then end up spending a lot more money trying to unravel things. We have a contentious trusts and probate team, so they have to deal with things when they don't go right. And perhaps you've got people challenging a will and things like that. If you've been to see a lawyer in the first place, you've discussed potential things that might crop up, you can do as much as you can to safeguard against things like that. Our clients that come and see us when they make a will, we suggest that every 5 years or so, or perhaps if anything changes, more grandchildren, children are born, or their financial position changes, they come back in to see us. But it would be less of a job once you've done the first will.
Yeah, indeed. And I suppose you look at it as an investment of peace of mind more than anything.
Well, absolutely. And if you think what it's determining on your death who is going to inherit all those things you've spent your whole life building up and working so hard for, it's going to cost you to put a will in place. But actually the value of that and the advice that you're going to receive for what it's about, it can include things like guardians for your children. They're really important things we're talking about.
Going back to talking more about Ellisons now, and not just about what you do, but it's actually who you support too in the community. It is phenomenal, some of the stuff that you do. Do you want to talk a bit about, is it philanthropy or is it genuine just community support and engagement?
There's generally community support and engagement, so it is really important to Ellisons. Another of our values is to support the communities that we live and work in. Our colleagues largely are from within the towns and cities where we do work. So it's important that we support initiatives within those. So, for example, we've got the Ipswich Town Football Club we spoke about just over the road. So we support the Dementia Cafe, which is run from there. We've been supporting that from its inception. So we sponsor. That's also run from Bury Town Football Club as well. So that's been nice to see that develop. We support Ipswich Sports Club, the Theatre Royal in Bury. As all I could list, there's loads of things that we do support.
Yeah,
It is really important.
Started supporting Brighton the Corners.
Yes, we have.
That's exciting.
Yes, that's exciting. Yeah, so that's really exciting as well. Prior to that, we were supporting the Thomas Wolsey 500 project. So that's really important. So there are things that make a real difference to our town and the places that we work. So it's important.
It's funny, I do see, the Ellisons logo on so many different projects or initiatives. It's you clearly are interested in your local community, which is really lovely to see.
And we also have our own CSR and fundraising committee. So we've now established 2 funds, one with Suffolk Community Foundation, one with Essex Community Foundation. And as well as that, we have this committee, and then members of colleagues, members of staff can make applications to the committee, for example, to sponsor their child's football team or things that are close to their hearts as well. So that's nice to be able to support those things.
No, it's brilliant.
And it generates a lot of interest, doesn't it, amongst the colleagues. It's something that genuinely people want to get involved with. And again, that is another one of our values, is working with the communities that we're in.
Yeah. And it shows, and you are delivering on it, and it's all brilliant. Well, I feel like we're drawing to a close. We were all really busy, and you have given us your very generous time. Thank you very much. I mean, I'm looking at this place. What a great place to work.
Oh, well, actually, now that you say that, we are accredited for Great Place to Work, so they do the staff engagement.
Oh, it's an actual thing?
It is an actual thing,
okay.
Yeah. So this will be our 3rd year that we'll try to go for it. But last year, the statistics were amazing. So, I always think it's fine for management board or HR to say, yes, everybody loves working somewhere. But last year we had over 95% of our colleagues who say that they would recommend Ellisons as the place to work. And that speaks for itself.
It does. And that's a really lovely way to finish. Well, thank you very much to both of you. It's been really interesting getting to know you a bit better. And, we'll stay in touch and speak again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Suffolk Pod Show. Find us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. Or you can visit our website, podtalk.co.uk. And here's our disclaimer.
The Suffolk Pod Show will not be held responsible for any omissions or errors in its podcast.
The Suffolk Pod Show is produced purely for entertainment purposes. Views and opinions are that of our own or that of our guests.